Hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuffs and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, we will of course read from the sci-fi / fantasy masterpiece, The Eye of Argon. I will talk about your responses to last week's video, including what I have finally decided about whether or not we will try a live Stuff and Things or Sunday Stuff and Things videos in the future. I will talk to you about how I've been thinking of some cool things that I'd like to show you, so I've been trying to use the clout of Stuff and Things to get some of those things to show you. We will go into John Cotton's Double Press Latakia. I just recorded my review for that. A new segment called What Are You Reading? Or I guess, What Am I Reading? So I'd be interested to know what you're reading as well. And then maybe What Am I Watching? If we have time. And then we'll get to your questions in hashtag askstuffandthings. But first, as I mentioned, and as I've been looking forward to all week now, a reading from The Eye of Argon by Jim Theis. All right, when last we left GRIGNER, see, Jim is getting a lot more descriptive. He's really sucking the marrow out of that bone as far as just describing in great detail the environments and the images that GRIGNER is seeing. Not a whole lot has happened yet. Basically, he's been in a prison and he got attacked by a rat, and he killed it in the last episode. So now here we are, carrying on from that. Flinging the broken body to the floor, GRIGNER shook his blood-streaked hands and wiped them against his thigh until dry. Then wiped the blood that had showered his face and from his eyes. Again, sitting himself upon the jagged floor, he prepared to once more revamp his glum meditations. He told himself that as long as he still breathed the gust of life through his lungs, hope was not lost. He told himself this, but found it hard to comprehend in his gloomy surroundings. Yet he was still alive, his bulging sinews at their peak of marvel, his struggling mind floating in a miral of impressed excellence of thought. Plot after plot sifted through his mind in energetic contemplations. Then it hit him. Minutes may have passed in silent thought or days, he could not tell, but he stumbled at last upon a plan that he considered as holding a slight margin of plausibility. He might die in the attempt, but he knew he would not submit without a final bloody struggle. It was not a foolproof plan, yet it built upon a store of renewed vortexed energy in his overratsoul. Though he might perish in the execution of the escape, he would still be escaping the life of infinite torture in store for him. Either way, he would still cheat the gloating prince of the succored revenge his sadistic mind craved so clearly. Or dearly, sorry. The guards would soon come to bear him off to the prince's buried mines of dread, giving him the sought-after opportunity to execute his newly formulated plan. Groping his way along the rough floor, GRIGNER finally found his tool in a pool of congealed gore. The carcass of the decapitated rodent. The tool that the very filth he had been sentenced to spawned. When the time came for action, he would have to be prepared, so he set himself to rending the sticky hulk in grim silence, searching by the touch of his fingertips for the lever to freedom. Up to the altar and be done with it, wench, ordered a fidgeting shaman as he gave the female a grim stare, accompanied by the wrinkling of his lips to a mirthful grin of delight. The gal burst into a slow, steady whimper, stooping shakily to her knees and cringing woefully from the priest, and both arms wound snake-like around the bulging jade shin rising before her scantily attired figure. Her face was redly inflamed from the salty flow of tears spouting from her glassy, dilated eyeballs. With short, heavy footfalls, the priest approached the female. I guess we're in a new scene here. Did I have a chapter break that I wasn't aware of? I think I did. Okay, we'll finish this paragraph. With short, heavy footfalls, the priest approached the female, his piercing stare never wavering from her quivering young countenance. Halting before the terrified girl, he projected his arm outward and motioned her to rise with an upward movement of his hand. The girl's whimpering increased slightly, and she sunk closer to the floor rather than arising. The flickering torches outlined her trim build. With a weird ornate glow as it cast a ghostly shadow, dancing in horrid waves of splendor over smoothly worn whiteness of the marble-hewn altar. Methinks GRIGNER might actually affect this young wench's escape as well. A comely lass would never go unwanted. All right, gang, that's the reading from the Eye of Argon for this week. More next week. I'm sure you can't wait. Okay, before we get into the next topic, you may notice a slight sheen of sweat over my body, or my face. I guess you can't really see my body. It's hot, and I'm very hot right now, so please excuse it. In fact, it's probably a whopping, you guys are gonna go crazy. I think it's probably like 76 degrees. Oh, in Bellingham, Washington right now. That's hot, and it's uncomfortable to me. I don't like it. So anyway, if I look all sweaty and gross, that's why. Next, you gave your responses last week when I was talking about maybe trying to do a live version of Stuff and Things or Sunday Stuff and Things. And many of you seemed amenable to that. A lot of you also said, no, don't do it. But when I say that we would do a live version of the Sunday Stuff and Things, I will still post the normal version of it on 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on the Sunday. I was thinking of recording something, doing a live version of it on a Saturday before it would post, so that if people wanted to watch it live and, you know, contribute, take part, have sort of a interactive Sunday Stuff and Things, they could do that. And then if you don't want to bother doing that, you can watch at the normal time for the video to post. So I think we're going to do it. We're going to try to do it this coming week on Saturday. And I was picking out times or thinking about different times to do it. I think we're going to go for 1 p.m. in the afternoon on Saturday. So that's Pacific Standard Time. I know a lot of people in different parts of the world have different policies as far as like daylight savings and things. I think in England you're in summertime right now, maybe British summertime. So I was trying to look into this and get as wide a net as possible. So we can get a lot of people in Western Europe because it'll be in the evening there. We can get some people, I guess, in Hawaii and other places like that. Obviously everyone in the US. I can't please everyone, obviously, but I think 1 o'clock is probably our best bet for getting the largest amount of people to be able to watch the episode. So it's going to be on YouTube. I don't know exactly how all this is going to work yet. I might try to do a little practice stream, maybe for just 5 minutes or something, to see how it all works. But I will alert everyone on Twitter and Instagram that it's happening. I mean, it is happening. Just know that it will be happening. And as far as I know, if you just go to the Stuff and Things YouTube page, there should be a notification there when the video is happening, like, okay, this live video is happening now. And it should show up in your subscription feeds as well. So the best advice I can give you right now is if you do want to watch the live version of Sunday Stuff and Things as it's being recorded next Saturday, go to the Stuff and Things YouTube page at 1 p.m. and join up. We may open up the stream a little early and try to get people in. Hopefully people come in. It'd be really sad if I'm just by myself. So we'll get people in, and then we'll have the official start at 1. And then we'll go for, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. I think it's going to be fun, though. We'll still do our normal segments, I guess, but it will be interactive. I'll be answering your questions as we go, trying to pay attention to the chat. I'm not going to have a moderator or anything, so hopefully no one will act like crazy people, and I can keep up with everything as we're going. This is going to be an experiment. We'll see what happens, and I'm not saying that all Sunday Stuff and Things are going to be like this from now on. I just wanted to try it because enough people have said that they would like to see what that would be like, and I would like to see what it would be like as well. So this Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube, we will be doing Sunday Stuff and Things live. Please join us. Next, as an influencer, a trendsetter on YouTube, not really. Honestly, I don't think that about myself. Please don't accuse me of that. I know I just said it, but I don't actually believe it. But I do have, 35,000 subscribers on this channel, many of whom are very enthusiastic. When I show something, if I review something and it seems interesting, a lot of you will actually follow up on that. And people do take notice of that. And so I get requests to review things often. They're usually weird things that I don't want to review, so I almost always say no. In the past week, I had an Asian company, I guess a Chinese company, asking me to review these watches that I thought seemed kind of weird, so I said no. Somebody wants me to review vape juice pretty much all the time, like all sorts of different companies. I always say no. I had one company ask me to review a game that's on early access in Steam. I guess that was for the Stuff and Things Plays channel. Looked kind of weird, so I said no. Just this week as well, a Kickstarter campaign wanted me to review. I don't even want to say the name of the product because I'm kind of making fun of it, but it was like a weird, you know those airline pillows that are like an oxen's yoke that you would put over your neck? It's like that, except it has this weird long tendril arm with an attachment for you to put your iPhone or your iPad or your smart device. So you'll be sitting there with this like demon tentacle out in front of your face as you like sit there and I don't know, it seemed weird. I thought it would be funny to review it, but then I felt I would feel guilty if I said, oh sure, I'll review your product, and then just proceeded to make fun of it mercilessly. So anyway, I get lots of requests to review lots of things. I almost always say no. But I very rarely actually reach out to companies to ask to review things. I'm trying to think of things that I've done that with. One was the Waterfield City Slicker Nintendo Switch case. I did see that, I thought it looked cool, and I asked them if I could review it. They said yes. I can't really think of anything else. I think there was a certain pipe I had asked the manufacturer, and they said yes, and then they never sent me one. But recently, there's something guitar related that I would really like to review, and it looks like maybe that will be happening, and I don't want to reveal anything about it yet because it's not for sure. But I was just curious if there, and not taking away like pipe blends and stuff like that, are there any products maybe in tech, maybe in, you know, style, grooming, things like that? Is there anything that you would really like to see me review? Because it would be interesting for me to get a list of that kind of thing and then think in the future about reaching out to some of these companies to see if I could review those products. And knowing that you guys wanted to see that would go a long way towards making that happen. So let me know in the comments below. All right, and as I mentioned, I have just recorded my review of John Cotton's double-pressed Latakia. The review will be posting this Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I don't want to get into it too much, but let me just say, this is really good, and I really like it. In fact, do I want to say this? I think I want to say this. It's a blend, I don't know that I have liked a blend this much for a review in quite some time, maybe many months. So please check out the review. It is posting this Wednesday. Next, it's time for our newest segment, What Am I Reading? I guess I don't have any bumper music. Maybe I'll make some bumper music for that at some point. We shall see. But I think I mentioned a while ago when someone was asking me what I was reading, and I mentioned this book, Apocalypse Never, Why Environmental Alarmism Hurts Us All by Michael Schellenberger. And I'm almost, I'm like 2/3 of the way through it now. A good, I don't know, almost third of the book is just notes and references to scientific studies and articles and all sorts of things. So I'm actually, I'm about 2/3 through, and it has been a fascinating read. So I don't want to give away everything in this book, and I couldn't in, a 30-minute YouTube video, but it's been really fascinating to me because it is told through the point of view of someone who is very proactively an environmentalist. They are not a climate denier. They're not someone on the far right. They care very deeply about the environment, and the reason they wrote the book, Michael Schellenberger, is because he thinks that environmental alarmism and the message that gets put out there commonly in the media and on social media and just in the popular culture about what can help and what can hurt the environment is actually hurting the environment and hurting people a lot. And so he gives a lot of great examples of how the conventional wisdom of what is good for the environment isn't necessarily good for the environment. And he sort of questions a lot of the conventional wisdom that people have brought up, like, oh, nuclear power is bad, or wind power is good necessarily. He brings a lot of actual science into the question. He interviews scientists, he cites studies, he has, like I mentioned, a good third of this book is all just notes and references. I mean, this is all, I'm not going to read it, but I believe it. I believe it. He wrote it down, so it must be true, right? But no, it's a lot of what he says seems very common sense to me, things that I would think just based on my own common sense without having the information, but this gives you the information behind maybe that common sense. So if you are someone who actually cares about the environment and how best to preserve it, then this is a book that's really worth reading. It's not for someone who just wants like something to throw in somebody's face to say like, climate change isn't real. I've always said I believe in climate change. I've just said I don't necessarily agree that it's the most, pressing issue that humanity faces. And he touches on that a lot in this book as well. So it's really interesting. It's a really good read. I suggest you check it out. It is Apocalypse Never by Michael Schellenberger. Read it. It's good. Okay, we don't really have time for the What Are You Watching segment. Suffice to say, my fiance and I have been watching The Wire. We're in season 4. It's really good. We need to get to #AskStuffandThings. That is where you ask me questions. If you would like me to answer a question on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the #AskStuffandThings, and I will do my best to answer your question. Also, if you are a Patreon supporter, you can write to me there. But first, via Twitter from Ty Smith at TySmith42. Ty requests a southern accent. Try not to sound like Foghorn Leghorn. Hey Bradley, been watching your show for about 5 years now, and I've always looked forward to your content. Never actually written to you though, just wanted to say thanks for everything you do, all the way from Tennessee. Well, thank you. That wasn't a question, Ty, but I'll allow it this time. Next, from Snail Tracks, at Snail Tracks, read in an old, slightly inebriated, slightly seasick sea captain voice. Well, we're getting very specific here. How's your smoke ring game, sailor? Better at blowing rings with a pipe or stogie or equal? I find I can blow rings like a diesel tugboat with a cigar, but with a pipe, not so much. I've never been amazing at smoke rings. I definitely can do it better with cigars. I think the smoke is just heavier and thicker and it weighs more, for lack of a better way of describing it. But I can, with a good, some pipe blends just have a really thick, creamy, billowy smoke. I can do it pretty well with those, much better with cigars. But yeah, I'm not amazing at it. I'm not a Gandalf over here. Next, but thank you for the question, Snail Tracks, voice breaking. Kyle Ricketson. Now I got 2 questions, and I think maybe they're from the same person, but I had one from YouTube that was Kyle Ricketson, and then another one that was Kyle Gray. I'm not sure if these are 2 different people. Obviously the names are different, but they said tongue burn as opposed to tongue bite, so I'm thinking maybe they're the same people. But the first question is, hey Bradley, been following you since 2014. I have a question. Let me know if I asked the wrong way, wrong media. Thing, tongue burn. I must suck at pipes, but I've been doing this off and on for 4 years and I've been told to quit. So how do you rid yourself, as best as possible, of tongue burn? So that was Kyle Ricketson. Then we have Kyle Gray at Who Elected This F. Tongue burn. How do you do not? What? Wait a minute. Tongue burn. What do, how do not? I'm not sure if I'm overpacking or underpacking. They have the exact same voice, so I think maybe it's the same person. Okay, tongue burn, tongue bite, as most people call it. It's mostly about cadence. It does have something to do with packing. Basically, you just want to avoid having your bowl burning too hot. Hotly. Adverbs. So you don't want to overpack, you don't want to underpack, you want to have the proper moisture content as well, and you just want to keep it moldering. You don't want it blazing. And then also, moisture content can have more to do with it. I find that a moist blend is more likely to bite than a properly dried blend. Not too dry blend, because then it can get tinder dry and it can get way too hot. There are certain kinds of blends that I think are more prone to bite. I think a lot of aromatics are more prone to bite, especially aromatics that have black Cavendish in them. So there are a lot of different factors that can go into this, but if you think about all the fundamentals, is your blend at the proper moisture content, meaning it's not too wet, not too dry. If you grab a pinch of it, it'll clump a little bit, but it won't turn into a gloopy ball. And by the same token, if you clump it into your finger, it's not just going to immediately fall apart because it's tinder dry. So proper moisture content. Number 2, pack it properly. You want to be able to check the draft when you suck in. You want to have just a little bit of constriction. Some people use the simile of like drinking a milkshake through a straw. I think milkshake is a little too much, because every milkshake I have, I'm like trying to get it through the straw. But somewhere in between drinking water through a straw and drinking a milkshake through a straw. You want a little bit of resistance, but you don't want too much resistance. You don't want to have to actually work to suck. So that's number 2, the pack. Number 3 is when you smoke it, slow down to the point where you're not getting a giant blaze going, a conflagration in your pipe bowl. You just want a nice moldering burn. You can keep it going, keep it lit. And also, if you're smoking aromatics and they seem to be biting you a lot, try an English blend or try a non-aromatic blend. Those are the things I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure more people will have some more suggestions in the description below. Thank you for the question, though, Kyle Ricketson and Kyle Gray, who may be the same person. Next, from Glenn Dunnington. I will watch your live stream anytime you post. What is the difference between Syrian and Cyprian Latakia? Smoking my last McClellan. Sorry about the McClellan. The difference between Syrian Latakia and Latakia made in Cyprus is that they are made in different places. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but Latakia is from Syria, the town of Latakia in Syria. I don't know how a Syrian would actually pronounce that name, but that's how we say it. And it is a method, it's kind of like the idea, can you call a sparkling wine that's not produced in the Champagne region champagne? A lot of people would say no, and some people will say that about Latakia that's not made in Latakia. But basically, in Latakia, they developed a way of basically curing tobacco whereby they would have certain aromatic woods and they would smoke the tobacco hanging from rafters in sheds, or I don't know if it originally originated inside their actual dwellings. Anyway, it would take on the particles of the smoke and imbue the leaves with a certain flavor. They do basically the same thing in Cyprus. They treat it the same way. Is it exactly the same as the Syrian Latakia? No, I would say no, because I have had Syrian Latakia and there is a different taste to it. It's not radically different, but there's a difference. It's a little bit, I'd say the Syrian Latakia, and a lot of this might be due to the fact that the Syrian Latakia that we had for a long time when it was available was very old. It was aged, but it did seem more mellow, a little bit less aggressively smoky, maybe a little bit more sweetness. It had a different character to it, but it was fundamentally the same kind of thing. The Cyprian Latakia, I think, is a little more raw, a little more harsh maybe, even though I don't think of Latakia as harsh, but when comparing it to the Syrian Latakia, it's a bit different. Maybe someday we'll be able to get Latakia from Syria again. I don't know, but that would be cool because we basically have run out as far as I know. All right, was that the last question? It was. Thank you all so much for the questions. Now, just because we're doing a live version of Stuff and Things, Sunday Stuff and Things, I always forget the name of my own show. Just because we're doing a live version of it next week does not mean that I don't want you writing questions into Twitter or to Patreon. Twitter @SAT Bradley with hashtag AskStuffandThings. Patreon, just write me a message, I'll get it. because I want to be able to still answer Ask Stuff and Things questions throughout the show, even though I will be answering questions live as well. Hopefully, if people are there watching me live, I really hope they are, because it would be really embarrassing and boring if nobody was there. Please watch, 1 p.m. next Saturday. Thank you. So please, keep those questions coming. We love them. But now, it is time to thank our Patreon supporters, the very best part of the show, where we thank the people who support the channels at $25 or more a month. If you would like to support the channels, there is a link in the description box below to the Stuff and Things Patreon. And this week, we would like to thank Ryan McFadin, MDoftheNorth, Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Cody Striegler, Ryan Stauffer, corbynborbyn, and Glenn. And now the Maniacs, the crazy people, the wild ones who support the channels at $100 a month. People like our good friend and award-winning author, Peter Straub. Also, Bob Magee. We love you, Bob. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you so much for watching. Please watch the stuff that we'll be playing on the Stuff and Things channel and the Stuff and Things Plays channel. The review of John Cotton's double-pressed Latakia this Wednesday. Bloodborne series Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Stuff and Things Plays, and much more to come in the weeks and months and years that will follow. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been a good friend, Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a pleasant Sunday, Stuff and Things. I'll see you later. Losing my voice.